Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome to a special episode of IPSA Kind of Magic. Now watch this. Alakazam, abracadabra. Look, I'm surrounded by IPSA members and a special guest, of course, Ryan Hobson from Milan. Today, what we're doing is really reflecting back on a year of IPSA and perhaps talking about successes and new things come about, and perhaps even looking forward to the future. And to start us off, in Hamish's stead, will be the delightful, incandescent Heather Bull-Bleed.
Hello there.
How's the year been for you, and what are you looking forward to in 2026?
Well, it's been a different year. It's been a good year in many respects. It's been quite busy. There's been obviously a lot of talk in the background about upfront information, material information, changes to the conveyancing transactions, etc. And we're not really much clearer on that because there's a consultation taking place at the moment, which ends at the end of this month. So I think a lot of that will become more clear probably in the springtime. But from IPSA's point of view, it's been a great year. We had our celebration of 20 years in the summer, and we had our very first awards ceremony. And it was great to get together with everybody and celebrate the changes and the achievements and the successes that we've made over the last 20 years. So, yeah, it's been a really good year. Thank you.
Are we referring to, of course, the time when I saw Mahesh getting down and dirty on the dance floor?
You certainly did.
I seem to remember that very clearly.
It was getting down, not dirty.
Well, exactly. The floor had just been clean. Jackie, welcome to the show. As ever, stalwart of the show, and thank you so much for being such a long-standing supporter. What you looking back, because obviously you've got perhaps in many ways a wider scope to look back through. You can see how things have changed. Has there been an acceleration of growth in the areas that really matter?
Yeah, there has been acceleration of growth in the information that's now being produced. And as we said last week, sometimes that's a bit much. There's too much information sometimes. I mean, I'm out of the loop really compared to the others. I'm just advisory on doing searches. They're more up to date with what's going on in the industry than I am.
But dare I say it, Jackie, not being up against it with your nose against the grindstone gives you a purview, an ability to look back at what's going on and what's really been affected without having to rush around to make amends yourself. Does that mean that you get a wider view of how it's progressed this year?
Yes, I think things have progressed. Although I do think sometimes things have gone backwards in the conveyancing process. When I look back to God knows how many years ago when we bought our first house, how quick it was, and to now how things are delaying it. So, you know, the whole system needs looking at. But I think for IPSA members, it's enabled them to provide more and more information for their clients. And keep them up to date with things that are going on, right. And obviously help them through processes that, especially if there's new conveyancers on the market coming into the working market, to help them through the process of what actual searches mean and to understand them, because you can produce these searches and they can look at them and think, what does that mean? Fortunately, with IPSA members, they can come straight back to them and ask, what does this mean? And if we don't know the answer, then they will say it's an enviro search. They will ring the environmental company and get the answer. They know who to speak to. So those things have changed, where before, you know, there wasn't people there to talk to, and obviously then the searcher, the IPSA member, becomes non-knowledgeable themselves. So therefore, if they're asked the question again, they know the answer.
Well, exactly
so.
It's what I was going to do is quickly go to Michelle. Michelle, thank you so much for making the time to be here. It's all about the data, isn't it?
It is. You've got to have the correct data, otherwise there's no point in having the data at all. And we've just recently had a case with an environmental search where Another provider's report highlighted something that when we sent it to another provider, said that's not an issue. And, that was just a clear case of data from one company was not correct. It was correct from the other company. So, yeah, data is very important all around, whether it's in the local searches or whether it's in the environmental or core reports.
Exactly. So, welcome, Ryan. Elan has made such a difference to IPSA since your inception with the company, with the organisation, I should say. What are the plans for 2026 for Elan?
Quite a lot, really. I think everybody's kind of touched on, data accuracy is really important, lowering the risk for solicitors. So as a tech provider, we need to keep things simple, faster, easy to use for solicitors. And I think really in 2025 and before, we've really grown now and shaped a strong, independent network. And I think 2026, the future's all for the taking. The momentum's rolling, we're growing. The platform will enable more and more offerings to solicitors. For example, report and title is just about to come out, which everybody can then go out and start offering, and gives that flexibility, no tie-ins, etc. We're really listening to the solicitor market for all the independents, and because we're all working together, the inputs that we have to drive the tech forward is second to none.
Well, and Mahesh, welcome again. I just had a message because there was an enormous thump halfway through your chat, Ryan, and said, "Who farted?" Probably me. I'll take ownership of that one. Mahesh, the problem we've seen is the rise of the factory conveyancer throughout the year, and so in your mind, how does IPSA not so much come back but offer something markedly different from that?
I think it's basically just going out to speak to the solicitors if you can, or the conveyancers who are dealing with your transactions and things, and just to point out to them the benefits of IPSA. It's the speed, the accuracy. You're not having to wait 2 weeks to answer a query, because you can speak to the person who's done the search, or one of the members who knows about the search, basically on the end of the phone, sort of, and answered your query within a couple of hours or even a couple of days. Sort of with factory conveyancing, sort of you're being passed from pillar to post. Sometimes you get an answer, sometimes you don't, sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. So it's invariably, it's speak to the conveyancers who are doing the transactions, and also letting the public know the situation as well. The public are not really aware of the fact that a lot of companies do use factory conveyancing for their searches, and obviously they're then getting an inferior product when you could go to an IPSA member, and get the proper stuff.
Right, indeed. And I believe we have another knees up in the beginning of the new year. Hopefully we'll be able to see you dancing and spiraling around the dance floor again. A lovely welcome to you, Barty. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you're rushing through the traffic. No, nothing. Only too pleased to see your face.
Thank you.
I mean, you... Whitefield has been around for a good while. You've seen a lot of major changes, but in my mind, I think there's the assumption for the public that it's just a press of a button now.
Yes, that's what is coming through, isn't it? The press of a button. But is it a press of a button that you get your searches? Is it a press of the button that you can get your data? Are they correct? Are they not correct? We've had cases in recent months, really, where the data was quite incorrect, and we've had to go back and not do press a button, but actually do the research on it before even, to get those data correctly to the clients. So it's going, I don't know which way it's going, but like they say, come to IPSA members and take them on board, and you get your correct reports, really.
Yes, quite so. Heather, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about perhaps direction and intent for IPSA in the new year. But before I do that, I know that you're on record or actually having corrected land charges information yourself, gone back to them and say, hang on, guys.
Oh, I'm not the only one. We've all had to go back and correct land charges information, whether that's with the councils or whether it's through the new and land registry digital register. We've all come across errors which we've had to correct. Sometimes it's a case of going back to the council and telling them this is wrong, you need to correct it. Sometimes it's more a case of refining the data and taking out stuff that is not relevant to that particular case. But yes, that's something that we've all had to do.
Do you think that's, I mean, logically, if I was just going to apply basic logic to it, over time, the instance of that happening should reduce, but I suspect at the moment it's still there.
Still there at the moment. It should reduce over time, but there's no guarantees of that. We've still got to, I mean, this is where, you know, you're asking Mahesh about the difference between using a factory conveyancer and an IPSA member. We do the research, we check the information, we don't necessarily trust it, so we know what we're looking for and we'll check it to make sure it's what we think it should be, and that's when we do the extra checks afterwards just to make sure. So yes, that's the difference that clients are getting if they use an IPSA member rather than a factory conveyancer.
The way I've described it, and Hamish said he quite liked this as a description, was I think of you guys as more like John Lewis. John Lewis reviews lots of stuff but only presents to the public what it considers to be the best and most accurate of the best, and that's pretty much what you guys are about. I think that's kind of the mode that you take, isn't it? You're not showing them everything
in that respect, but I like the John Lewis analogy.
Yeah, why not? That's why people trust John Lewis, because when you go there, you don't just get everything, you get the stuff that actually works, and it's then down to personal taste. Now, let's talk a little bit about IPSA in 2026. Are there going to be any direction changes? Are there any surprises that we should be waiting for? Is there anything like that you can let us weigh in on?
Well, I think one of the things that Michelle, Hamish, and I have been talking about as directors, and the rest, and we've sort of spread out to the rest of the executive, is we need to make the public more aware of factory conveyancing. Most first-time buyers are in their sort of 20s, 30s, and their way of doing everything is to get their phone and do a few clicks and find out, you know, oh, how do I get a conveyancing quote? And that will always give them a cheap quote, which will direct them towards a factory conveyancer. And they don't know any different because they haven't bought a house before. And people that have bought houses in the interim often haven't bought them for a long time. So we want to get out there and be saying to the public, when you buy your house, there are a number of questions to ask yourself, and ask your friends, neighbours, family for recommendations, and for companies to avoid, or, you know, tell everyone about the pitfalls. That's one of the things we're going to be doing, concentrating on in January, and starting on it is getting that message out to the wider public as well as to the conveyancers.
But what always gets me, and I find it highly risible, is if you use a factory conveyancing setup, you could well be taking far longer to get your searches back.
Absolutely.
But I mean, under basic logic, that makes no sense at all. How do you guys manage to get a quicker response when logic would tell you it should be slower?
Well, I think the reason is that the factory conveyancers, they offer a cheap service, they get a lot of work, and because it's cheap, they don't have the resources there to get the work, but the throughput of the work. So very often you'll have a conveyancer or an assistant sitting with 100 files in process, and they're literally just doing the one that has the most phone calls on it. You know, they can't actually do them in a particular order.
He shouts loudest, sort of
yeah,
thing.
It does come down to that situation quite often, and if they've got a lot of work, even if they do it in number order, it's still going to take a long time. So it's down to, you know, a local conveyancer or a high street solicitor. They're probably only going to take on as much work as they know they can complete reasonably in an acceptable time frame, and that's the message we want to get across to the public.
I mean, personally, I'm just a vaguely amusing figurehead who bounces around on these things, but I am very pleased to say I attended one of your meetings, and I was welcomed with open arms. It was a very pleasant and easily understandable process, and everybody dealt with me with honor and dignity. It was lovely. And I've bought and sold a number of houses in the past, and I haven't always had that. And it's a breath of fresh air. Michelle, if you could just briefly unmute yourself. I just wanted to get a few final words from you before I thank everybody and wind this up for another year gone, as it were. So, Michelle, I mean, you've heard what Heather said. Factory conveyancing. I think we can use this channel to promote the idea that there is a fundamental difference between factory conveyancing and what IPSA offers.
Yeah, exactly. We should. And when we get into the new year and we're looking at the first-time buyers, we're looking at how they actually get their quotes and where they get them from. Not only has it been something that I've been affected by myself personally with a factory conveyancing team, they've managed to be at the bottom of a chain that I'm in, and the conveyancer didn't pick up the file. Everyone had a date to complete, and the conveyancer then picked up the file at the bottom of the chain and said, "Oh, I haven't done my inquiries yet." So the planned chain of 4 due to complete today is now going to be January, and it's affecting a lot of families because he was too busy. He was away on holiday in his factory conveyancing company, and no one picked up the file. So now there's a few families suffering as a result of it, and that message has got to be put out there that it doesn't have to be like that if you work with a local firm and with a firm that uses IPSA, so those searches can get back quicker and inquiries can be made at a sooner point and avoid all of this, avoid the heartbreak.
Well, I know that Hamish, who's watching, he sent a message. Actually, I'm just going to pop it up in a second. Chains, in the words of a famous song, should keep us together. Not if you use factory conveyancing, where suddenly part of the chain suddenly disappears on holiday. Let me bring the message up. Hamish, at the moment, I can only send you my very best regards and hope you get better very soon. It's great seeing so many experts together. Great demonstration of the quality of service that clients of IPSA members receive. And I absolutely hear for that. I've also had a message from LASN Limited. Happy Christmas. And to everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in. To Heather Poole-Gleed, to Ryan Hobson, to Barty River, to Michelle, to Jackie, and of course to Mahesh. Thank you so much for taking your time out to be with us today. And to all of you watching, please remember, the new year is just around the corner. It's ready to make a positive splash for everyone.
Yes.
Keep our feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and please look after your mental health in the meantime. Until next week, goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks, Neil.